You know, there's this huge digital wave crashing over one of the world's oldest industries, commercial real estate. We're talking about everything, massive office towers, giant warehouses, you name it. They're all getting a major 21st century upgrade. So today, we're going to dig into the hype versus the reality of this whole tech revolution.
To really get a handle on this, let's just start with a kind of provocative question. What if the buildings we work in every day weren't just these static chunks of concrete and steel? What if they could actually think, adapt and respond to what we need right in the moment? That's really the big promise at the heart of this entire movement.
And that leads us right to this big buzzword, PropTech. It stands for property technology. At its core, it's pretty simple. It's all about weaving technology into every single part of a building's life. I mean, from the first sketch in an architect's notebook all the way to its daily operations, tech is just fundamentally changing how the game is played.
So what does this all actually look like in the real world? Let's pop the hood and open up the modern toolkit for commercial real estate to see exactly what's powering this incredible shift.
Okay, probably the easiest way to wrap your head around this whole universe of tools is to just split it in two. On one side, you've got technology that helps the building's owner manage their property as an investment. And on the other side, you've got tech that's designed to make life better for the people who actually use the building, the tenants. Let's just call them asset-facing and tenant-facing tech.
Let's start with the asset side. This is the powerful, behind-the-scenes stuff. Think of portfolio management software that gives an owner this amazing, real-time dashboard of their entire real estate empire. Or software that keeps these huge, complex construction projects on schedule and on budget. And crucially, data tools that can use analytics to predict the next big investment hotspot.
Now, let's flip it over to the other side of the coin. Tenant-facing tech is all about the human experience inside the building. We're talking about apps on your phone that let you book a conference room or tell maintenance about a flickering light. It's smart buildings where the AC adjusts automatically to keep you comfortable. It's even things like digital tours that let you check out a new office from thousands of miles away.
So when you bring both sides of this toolkit together, the promise becomes crystal clear. We're talking about a future where buildings aren't just more valuable assets for their owners, but are actually better, smarter, and more comfortable places for all of us to be in.
Okay, so that's the toolkit we have today. But honestly, what gets really exciting is where this is all going. So let's look over the horizon at the trends that are shaping the future of our buildings as we speak.
You can kind of think about this on a timeline. Right now, the big focus is on ESG and sustainability. Using tech to make buildings greener, more efficient, that's become a total must-have. Next up on the horizon is the explosion of AI and machine learning, doing everything from predicting when an elevator needs maintenance to making smarter investment bets. And then, way out in the future, we're looking at wild concepts like tokenization, the idea that you could own a tiny little piece of a skyscraper, all verified on the blockchain.
So what's pushing all this forward? Well, it's us. Our demands on buildings have completely changed. We now expect flexible spaces for hybrid work. Investors absolutely require detailed ESG reports. And pretty much everyone, from the owner down to the person renting a desk, wants data-driven decisions and a super smooth, tech-enabled experience.
And all of this is pointing towards one ultimate goal, getting away from the old model of just leasing square footage. The new paradigm is something called space as a service. It's a world where landlords aren't just renting out empty rooms, they're providing a complete, flexible, tech-powered service.
Now, all of this sounds absolutely incredible, right? A sci-fi vision of smart, responsive buildings. And it's really easy to get swept up in all that hype. But now we have to make a sharp pivot and look at the reality on the ground. Because actually making this happen, well, that's where it gets really tricky. Because for all the amazing promise, there are some pretty major hurdles to clear before this future is everywhere.
Here are the big 4 roadblocks. First up, you have all these different tech systems that just don't talk to each other. Second, there's the risk of picking a startup vendor that might go out of business next year. Third, you have this huge internal debate. Do we build our own tech or just buy it from someone else? And maybe the biggest hurdle of all, getting your people, your teams, to actually use and embrace all these new tools.
And this quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head for the #1 pain point, fragmented tech. I mean, imagine trying to run your business today if your accounting software couldn't talk to your sales software, which couldn't talk to your inventory system. It would be chaos. Well, that's the reality for a lot of real estate companies. It's a massive barrier.
So with all this incredible hype on one side and these very real challenges on the other, how do you figure out which technologies are actually going to make it and which ones are just, innovation theater? Let's get right to the bottom line.
Here it is. This is the simple, powerful truth of the matter. Forget all the buzzwords. The tech that actually gets bought and used is the tech that delivers a clear, undeniable return on investment. It has to solve a real business problem.
And those real business problems, they almost always fall into one of these three buckets. Does this new tech make my building cheaper to run? Does it help me keep my tenants happy so they don't leave? And does it make the building itself more valuable? If a new piece of tech can confidently tick one or more of those boxes, it's got a real shot.
At the end of the day, the companies that are really winning with PropTech aren't doing it to look cool or to put out a fancy press release. They're doing it because things like rising energy costs and changing tenant demands make it an absolute necessity for their business to survive and thrive.
And this really leads to two completely different ways of thinking. The firms that struggle often treat tech like this separate side project, an innovation lab in the corner. But the firms that succeed, they do the exact opposite. They treat technology as core strategic infrastructure, just as fundamental to the business as the concrete and steel of the building itself. So all of this leaves us with one final, really critical question for the entire industry. In this new world, is PropTech just another line item on the expense sheet? Or is it the single most important investment a real estate company can make to secure its future? Honestly, the answer to that question is going to define the winners and losers for years to come.